right, guys, we've got some breaking news here tonight. WFA&A out of Dallas has been covering our story coming out of Terrell, Texas. That's the crash that happened on Saturday. 5 lives have been lost after a migrant driver fell asleep while driving and crashed into stalled traffic. The same type of crash that we had happen in Austin, Texas, the same type of crash that we've had happen in Thomasville, Alabama, the same type of crash that we've had happen in Chattanooga. We have an epidemic right now of these migrant drivers coming in here, being unvetted, unqualified, untrained, and running over our families out here on the highway. I just want to give credit to WFA&A. They did a great job on this story, as the reporter has dispatched out to the address of this location for this company that was operating this driver. They've also dug into the other drivers who were working for the company, and they now have information that not only did we have a migrant driver, we've got a company here that's being run from overseas, and we have now confirmation from a driver that was employed by this agency that they were editing the logbooks. The same thing that we've been talking about at American Truckers United. When FMCSA showed up at Matt's, we told them on stage that foreign entities and foreign actors were editing logbooks here in the United States. The FMCSA still to this day has not done anything. They haven't done anything about these foreign actors editing logbooks, and now we've got 5 people dead in Texas. Enough's enough. I say it was enough when Scott Miller died. I say it was enough when Mark Bryant died. I say it was enough when all the people in Austin, Texas died. People have got to stand up and say something. They've got to say something to DPS saying we don't want these drivers being imported in here and issued these non-domiciled CDLs. We want American citizens who are trained to American standards, who are paid an American wage, and who are working on our American highways. Because who cares more about what happens to our American citizens than our own Americans? You know, if they're going to break immigration laws, they're going to break hours of service laws. This guy was knowingly driving over his hours of service, backdating their bill of ladings, changing their logbooks. I don't even know why we're having to have this conversation, but we have to keep just time and time again just talking about these crashes, and nobody is being held accountable. Heads need to roll. Heads need to roll. There needs to be people fired in Washington, D.C. tomorrow. There need to be people fired over this situation right here. It is unacceptable these people are dead under these circumstances. Absolutely. It was unacceptable that those people in Austin were dead. It's unacceptable the people in Chattanooga are dead. It's unacceptable the people in Thomasville are dead. And it's time for people to be held accountable. So with that, I'm going to roll this footage. You're going to be shocked. You're not going to believe what this reporter has uncovered. Here we go.
And is fighting for her life right now after losing her mother, father, brother, and grandfather in that crash.
Yeah, WFAA just obtained a newly released police affidavit that reveals new details about what happened.
4 hearses left the Dallas County Medical Examiner's office carrying the McKellar family to a funeral home in Fort Worth. Jabbar McKellar, his wife Krishan, their son Kason, and Jabbar's father, Billy, all killed in the crash. The only survivor in the vehicle, Evan McKellar, lost a foot in the crash and remains in critical condition. A GoFundMe account is now open to help the family with expenses.
Investigators say it started when a semi plowed into the McKellar's pickup truck going 75 miles an hour. There was no sign the driver ever hit the brakes. Another woman named Nicole Gregory was killed when the semi jackknifed and crushed her car.
Police now say the truck driver admitted he fell asleep at the wheel.
Tonight, senior investigative reporter Tanya Iser looks at the trucking company he worked for and listens to a former driver's disturbing allegations.
My heart just kind of dropped, like, man, that a week ago, like a week, 2 weeks ago, that could have been me.
You're hearing from a trucker who drove for Hope Trans, the same company whose truck was involved in a crash Saturday that killed 5 people in Terrell. Court records say the driver in that deadly wreck told police he fell asleep behind the wheel. The truck driver we spoke to, who asked us to conceal his identity, says he's not surprised, given what he experienced.
There was just so many red flags.
The truck driver provided us a copy of his employment agreement and showed us messages with company dispatchers, including records from a run he took last month from Atlanta to Phoenix.
They pressured me into this load.
By law, truckers can't drive more than 11 hours a day, then they must take a 10-hour break. The 1,900-mile trip normally takes 27 hours of driving. He says he did it in 34 hours.
I next day shipped it from Atlanta all the way to Phoenix off of 3 hours of sleep.
Here's the contract for that load, known as the bill of lading. It shows the departure date was backdated as well, from June 9th to June 8th.
I could have quit. I could have said no. I was one paycheck loss away from my wife and kids losing our house.
The trucker also provided us this message instructing drivers to hide any original paperwork.
This is coercion. They're coercing this guy to do something that everybody from the company safety folks to the entire industry knows what they're doing is illegal.
Dale Prax owns Freight Validate, a company that tracks fraud and identity theft in trucking. Federal records show that Hope Trans drivers were repeatedly cited for driving beyond the 11-hour driving limit.
They just acted like they didn't know how to dispatch within the law.
We also learned Hope Trans had listed a Tacoma address in federal records, but that address, a co-working space. When our sister station showed up Tuesday, the staff said the company only got mail there. They didn't actually work there. Here's why that's important. When a trucking company registers with the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, or FMCSA, it's required to list a principal place of business. That means a real physical address, not just a mailbox or a P.O. box. It's supposed to be where driver and safety records are kept, and where federal inspectors can show up unannounced to check those records.
If I was an investigator and I went to look at those records, within 24 hours of the accident, where would I find them?
But 2 days after the deadly crash, federal records show the company's address suddenly changed. Gone was the Washington State address, replaced by an apartment in Orlando.
Why do they have that address in Washington at a virtual office in the first place?
Back in May, WFA uncovered trucking companies violating those rules, including 20 companies registered to this virtual mailbox on West Commerce Street in Dallas. So they wouldn't actually be physically here?
No, they would not be working here physically, no.
We also found nearly 700 companies tied to this single address in Signal Hill, California. And get this, roughly 500 of them list the same email, WTF-FMCSA@AOL.com.
We're finding that a huge percentage of the bad guys list a virtual office address because they don't want to be tracked. They don't want to be found.
We reached out to the CEO of Hope Trans, Ashat Magomedova, multiple times by phone and email. She did not respond.
If you were describing this company to somebody that might be thinking about going to go work for them, what would you tell them?
I would tell them stay far away. Companies like this, it's a very big problem. There's probably thousands and thousands of trucks just like these people on the road that have not gotten any sleep, and it's hard to put a stop to it.
We reached out to federal regulators and they said they're working on it. On Tuesday, Governor Greg Abbott tweeted out our story from Monday and said he's asked the Texas Department of Public Safety to expand its investigation. In Dallas, I'm Tanya Iser.
Well, if you're a truck driver or have ever driven for Hope Trans in the past, our Investigates team wants to hear from you. You can email them at investigates@WFAA.